Hi, I'm Allie with Potomac Beads. I'm going to show you how to make a simple bracelet using your new treasure box. So the first thing I want to do is unpack the treasure box and give a little bit of inspiration. So I have the treasure box here that comes with different things each month. And each month when you unpack it, you're going to decide kind of what to do. I already have about 4 projects in mind as I unbox this and was looking at it earlier. So I'm going to take out my strands for some inspiration. And then I'm going to take out my supplies. Now, maybe you might need additional supplies. I'm going to need some crimp beads in order to do mine and kind of check out my colors, see what I've got going on. Oh, cool. I have a button in here and have some 2-hole beads, which may be unfamiliar to some of you basic beaders out there, and some findings as well. I also have a little storage container, so maybe I'll open them up and start to decorate or start to design with them in the containers, make it a little bit easier. What I decided that I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and I am going to start creating a multi-strand bracelet using my Eva beads as well as my cord and also some of my round beads. I'll throw in some of the crystals as well. And I'm going to use my button as a clasp. So I've decided to stay neutral for this product and just work with my 2-hole Eva beads and my 4mm bicones as well as the tiny little 3mm check glass rounds. So I'm going to unpack this all, and I have my beading cable and I'm going to put it into a simple bracelet. The box also came with a bunch of copper items and some beautiful head pins, and I have so much going through my head as well for that design. All right, so I have my 3mm. We're going to make a loop with that to go around our button. And I'm going to use my bicones in between my Eva beads just for a nice, simple design. Go ahead and grab a wire cutter and your string. If you happen to have a bead stopper, bead stoppers are great to use, but you don't necessarily need one for this design. So I'm going to double over. If you want to make this a 2-strand or a double wrap rather, you can actually pull more cord. I'm just going to make it a single strand and then I can build more on it if I want to. Take my wire cutter and cut off that extra. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a loop to go around my button. And then I'll secure the button with one single crimp bead and put the wire through it after I get to the end of the bracelet. So to start out, I just need to make my loop. My loop, I'm going to use those 3mm beads for. If you have some seed beads also work, but you're just going to take your wire here and you're going to string on your 3mm beads to create this loop. And as I'm stringing these on I'm trying to take note of the size of my button. I want it to be big enough, the loop, to go around the button, but not too big that it's going to fall off. You can also, if you don't like the idea of the beads around the button, you can simply use the wire itself. So after going through and adding all of these beads here, we're going to bring our loop into one bead. The reason we're doing that is because it fits best and works the best when you go in and you have one bead. If you separate it out into the 2 strands, the loop tends to open a little bit more and you're more likely to lose the bracelet. Looks like I need about 1 more bead on. And these little 2s are perfect for this. And then I'm going to take 1 more 2mm bead and put both wires through. Now, if you're using different materials at home and you have trouble getting that 2mm bead through or a bead through, you can use a crimp bead here as well, if you have one of those. And you just want to make sure that it goes through your loop and that it is big enough. So I'm good to go. We're going to get ready now to separate out the wire to get our Eva beads and our crystals on. So once I have it laid out, or all my materials out, I laid out the pattern that I wanted of my Eva beads into a design to get that nice chevron look. I also grabbed some 11O seed beads in a bronze color just to kind of pull it together a little bit and to make up for some of the spacing. You do not need the seed beads though. You can just design from your box if you want. I put 2 seed beads on either side of my wire here. And then I'm going to drop onto my thread and needle just one of my 2mm beads, one of those tiny check rounds, one of my 4mm crystals on each side, and then we're going to get into the fun of the Eva beads. So I like the Eva beads because they are a nice kind of directional bead, and you can get a very modern look with them for bead weaving or bead stringing. After my bicones, I am going to pick up with my wire, and I like to use my wire, if you can, like a needle, and just pick up your seed beads that way. Let that drop down next to your crystal loop, basically, that you have there. And then we're going to pick up our first one of our Eva beads. The Eva beads, if you have not worked with them, they have holes going through this side. So if you hold them kind of like a bird shape, I'm going with the top of the bird or the beak facing down. And you see just that little tiny action there. From here, it's a nice repetitive action going in, and I'm going to have one of my 4mm beads on each one of my wires. Then I'm going to pick up an 11 after that. And then I am going to add my next Eva bead. You can change up the direction of the Eva if you want to make it more of a chevron diamond look. I'm going to keep going facing downward, putting that point towards the bottom. I'm going to repeat this pattern the whole length of my bracelet, just using the materials from the kit as I'm going in and creating the length of my bracelet. So once you're done with your pattern and you have all of your Eva beads nice and facing on your bracelet, I'm repeating the same pattern that I did at the intro as I exit the bracelet as well. So I have my 4mm, then my 3mm, then my 2 individual 11 seed beads. Coming back here, I'm going to grab my last of my 2 that I'm using to bring those together. Then I'm going to put onto my wire 1 2mm crimp tube. Grab your button, go through the back of your button with both strands of wire, turning them over, and then put both strands of wire through that crimp tube. One thing to realize is because I'm using 1 crimp tube here, that it will not, the check round will not take 4 strands of wire. If you're doing a single strand bracelet and you want to do the same design idea, it will. So you'll be fine there. What I often have to do is hold the wire with my plier and kind of pull the other wire down. Give a nice tight pull then, 1 wire at a time to tighten that up. Make it flexible enough that the button can move, and then you're just going to squash that down. If you want to put a crimp cover on, you can do so, but I'm just doing a flat crimp. Grabbing my cutter, doing a nice cut close there, and that finishes up my bracelet design. And it's just a fun, simple, easy design coming from the treasure box, using that button as a clasp, which can be the focus. And you can see that the loop actually covers up most of that crimp cover, or that crimp bead anyway. But a nice, simple 2-strand design using those V's. And I can't wait to get into some of those copper findings using some of the leaf drops as well as those ball head pin to make a nice cluster hanging down from the toggle, almost like it was in the waterfall necklace. So check that out from the December video. We'll put links to that as well as our website if you need any of this, or if you want to check out the treasure box underneath the video. So make sure to click there and also comment and let us know what you're doing with your supplies from your treasure box. Thanks so much for joining me in this simple double strand treasure bracelet featuring our January treasure box. So if you've got the Berry Treasured box, you've got everything. Just grab a crimp bead and you're ready to go. As always, if you want to subscribe to the box as well as this channel, hit that little button there. But subscribing to the box, look at the links below because we'd love to have you in our Potomac Beads family. Thanks so much for watching, and stay tuned for more inspirational designs.